Dear students, welcome. Hoshamdid and Hosh Galdanes. Today we are going to discuss Anglo-Saxon and Anglo-Norman age in our discussion. I'm going to discuss with you guys the background, literary productions, salient features till the Norman Conquest. When we talk about the background of Anglo-Saxon time period, the period is also known as Old English period. Anglo-Saxons were Old English tribes migrated from Scandinavian areas to English lands that is currently known as England. Old English was the language spoken by those tribes. Those migrations to these lands brought Christian conversions with them. Hence, Christianity was brought by those tribes that migrated from Scandinavian areas to English lands. Anglo-Saxons, Angles and Saxons, these are the tribal peoples that are known as Anglo-Saxons, and they used to live in the form of tribes. They were brave people, they were warrior, they were chivalrous. Rather, better to say that bravery and chivalry were thought as savior domains for their tribal lives on that time. As we all know, in the Old English time period, in the Anglo-Saxon time period, they used to have many conflicts and wars and such kind of incidents between tribes and among tribes. So that's why they used to prefer to become a warrior, and they used to celebrate their warriors, and they had a very significant and celebrated position for the warriors in their tribes. And most of their literary production that were survived, they consisted of those songs, the ballad, the sort of ballads and songs that celebrated the bravery of their warriors. One of the very important literary piece of that time period is, we all know, is Beowulf. There was no established paradigm of literature on the time of Anglo-Saxons. However, Anglo-Saxon literary writings were emerged in 5th to 7th century. Historical accounts say that the emergence of poems and poetry can be marked in around 7th century in the Anglo-Saxon tribes. There are very less number of works that are survived. The literature contains mostly ballads and war songs, means war songs. Those war songs used to celebrate the brave men of the tribe and their victories. According to Ifor Evans, there were a few other types of manuscripts discovered in 18th century that actually belonged to Anglo-Saxons. Those manuscripts are political and religious in their nature. Let's come to the only celebrated, survived, and academically in practice or academically in use literary production and literary piece of that very time period. And as we all know, that is Beowulf. Beowulf is the only epic poem that is the survived piece, and not totally survived because that manuscript was also burnt in the few pages were damaged during that incident. So it is also not fully survived, but it stands for its period. It represents its time period. The one survived and celebrated piece of literature is Beowulf, and Beowulf is the story of a brave chivalrous knight. He had several expeditions. He killed many monsters and then he became a king. This epic poem basically is divided in two parts. In the first part is consisted of the young age expeditions of the Beowulf, and the second half is consisted of his life as a king. And the ending scene of this very poem shows the burial of that very king and knight, and hence it ends on the celebration of his bravery. But there is a scene of mourning at the end. That is the mourning of that brave and chivalrous king, Beowulf. Beowulf is consisted of 3,000 lines. Its story is set in Denmark. Beowulf helped the king of Denmark, and then he became the king, himself became the king, and then the story moves on. Now come to the salient features of the Anglo-Saxon poetry or the Anglo-Saxon literature. The salient features of those survived pieces, and including Beowulf, are that they are extremely chivalrous. They are consisted of war songs. They are consisted of folk songs. They have fantasy in their writings. There are many supernatural creatures and supernatural themes in their writings, and we find a lot of supernatural objects within Beowulf, like the monster Grendel in the Beowulf, and the sea monster, and the celebration, and in their whole literature is based on the celebration of their brave knights and the accounts of their expeditions. Then comes the Norman Conquest. In 1100, Williams of Normandy just conquered this land that is now called England. He defeated the English king and the leader of those tribes, and then there started a time period of transition and the emergence of new trends. That was the time period of the emergence of French manners, and French manners became in fashion. But there was a kind of suppression from the religious hierarchies in collaboration with monarchy on that time. That also makes those ages as dark ages, and that suppression and domination of French manner are evident in the works of medieval ages. We will discuss this suppression and the effects of French manners on English society of that time that was invaded by France, while we will discuss the poets and the poetry of Dark Ages, particularly the poetry of Geoffrey Chaucer, for which I will just have a separate discussion with you. We will discuss the Middle Ages poetry. We will discuss Geoffrey Chaucer, and particularly his work that is in the part of modern academia, that is Prologue to Canterbury Tales and then Canterbury Tales. For today, I think it's sufficient, it's enough, and so Khuda Hafiz from my side.